How Night Came. This is a Brazilian folktale. Please do not listen to this when you are driving or doing any activity that requires visual attention. I hope you consider liking this and subscribing. Now on to the folktale. Many years ago, at the very beginning of time, when the world had just been made, there was no light. The sun shone every day. No one had any reason to wonder what sunsets and sunrises were. No one had ever heard of stars, nor heard of the moon that ruled at night. There were no night beasts, no night birds, no night flowers, no night shadows, and certainly no soft night breeze. In these nightless days, the daughter of the great sea serpent, who dwelt in the deep depths of the sea, married the son of the great earth called man. She left her home among the shadows of the deep seas to live with her husband in the land of constant daylight. Days after living in her new abode, her eyes grew weary of the bright sunlight that wouldn't disappear even for a moment, and then her beauty slowly began to fade away. Her husband became very sad about it, but he did not know how to help her. Oh, if only night would come, she moaned wearily as she tossed in her couch. It is always daylight here on this land, whereas in my father's kingdom, there are many night shadows. Oh, what I would give to have a little of the darkness of night. Her husband, who listened to her moans, was very perplexed. He asked, "What is this night that you speak of? Tell me about it, and maybe I can get you a little of it." "Night," said the daughter of the great sea serpent, "is the name given to the heavy shadows which darken my father's kingdom. I love the sunlight of the earth land, but alas, I have grown tired of it. If only we could have a little darkness from my father's kingdom to rest our eyes for some time." Her husband immediately called for his 3 most faithful servants and instructed, "I am about to send you on an important journey. You are to go to the kingdom of the great sea serpent who dwells in the depths of the sea, and ask him to give you a little of the darkness in his kingdom, that his daughter may not die here in the sunlight of our earthland." The 3 servants set off to the kingdom of the great sea serpent. After a long and tiring journey, they arrived at the sea serpent's home in the depths of the sea. As their master instructed, they told him to give them some of the night to carry back home. The great sea serpent gave them a huge bag and warned them against opening it until they were in the presence of his daughter, their mistress. The 3 slaves mounted the bags upon their heads and began their journey back home. But they soon started hearing strange sounds from within the bag. It was the sound of the night creatures, very much like the jungle at night. They had never heard anything like it and were greatly afraid. "Let us drop the bag here and run as fast as we can," the first servant said in fear. Then the second servant said, "Either ways we shall perish." Then the third servant also said, "Whether we perish or not, I am going to open the bag and see what it is that is making so much noise." So they dropped the bag and opened it, and immediately all the creatures of the night rushed out, and following them was the great black night cloud. They became more frightened than they had ever been and ran into the jungle. Now, just as this was happening, the daughter of the great sea serpent had been desperately waiting for the arrival of the servants. Ever since their departure, she had waited anxiously for their return, shading her eyes with her hand and gazing off into the horizon. So when the servants had disobediently let out the contents in the bag, she saw the clouds of darkness over the horizon and cried out in contempt, Night comes. Night comes at last. Then she slept there, under the royal palm tree. When she woke up, she felt and looked thoroughly refreshed. She was once more the happy, beautiful princess who had left her father's kingdom. She was now ready to see the day again. She looked up at the bright star shining over the royal palm tree and said, "Oh, beautiful bright star, henceforth you shall be called the morning star, and you shall announce the approach of day." Then she called all the birds about her and said, "Wonderful sweet singing birds, henceforth I command you to sing your sweetest songs at this hour to announce the approach of day." The cock was standing by her side, and she said to him, "You shall be appointed the watchman of the night. Your voice shall warn the others that the madrugada comes." To this very day in Brazil, the early morning is called madrugada. When it was daylight, the 3 servants crept back home fearfully with an empty bag. When their master saw them, although he had been happy to see that his wife was refreshed again, he was still very angry about their disobedience. "Oh, disobedient servants, why did you not obey the voice of the great sea serpent? Because of this, I shall change you into monkeys. Henceforth, you shall live in the trees, and your lips shall always bear the mark of the sealing wax which sealed the bag full of night." To this very day, the monkey wears the mark from biting off the wax that sealed the bag. And in Brazil, night leaps out quickly, just as it leapt out of the bag. This is the Brazilian tale of how night came. What are your opinions or lessons gathered from this Brazilian folktale? If you liked this folktale, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe, as it helps grow the channel. Thanks for listening.